Hey friends, my name's Steven with Leviathan Snakes, and today we're going to be talking about how much space do you need to work a recessive project. So, as you can see here, we got quite a few different racks just like all around the shop. And I apologize, I know it's a bit of a mess. So actually, before we end up really getting into this video, I'm gonna clean up a little bit and yeah, then we'll talk about it. Now that we are all done setting up, getting everything clean, this here is Cora. She is our leopard yellow belly sunset female, and she's going to be helping me talk about our topic of how much room do you need to work a recessive project. So, because we got her and because I love sunset, we wanted to use the sunset project as our examples and as our base. So, very first thing that you want to make sure that you have enough room for is that you need to have room for your initial animals that you are using to build the foundation of your project. And most recessive projects start off with a setup where you have one male and 3 females or one male and 4 females. Either one of these options are really good, and the reason why you set up your projects like this is that one male can go to multiple different females. So if you are trying to, let's say, start with the sunset project, you can have one visual sunset male and then breed them to 3 or 4 different animals very, very easily once they're all up to size. And you can get lots of different genes worked into the project right away. And I think that this is like an important thing to make note of. Just because you are working a project, like let's say you're working sunset or puzzle or anything like that, that doesn't mean that every single animal that you are working in that project has the sunset gene or a het sunset gene or anything like that. In fact, when you are really, really working a project, oftentimes there is a difference between recreating the visual recessive by pairing a sunset to a bunch of different hets. That is a definite way to work the project, but the problem with that is you are required to wait for somebody else to make the hets first. So if you are only using hets in visuals or het to het or visual to visual, it's very, very unlikely that you will be able to create cutting edge new combos that haven't been made before. And people who really, really want to work a project, that is part of the fun of it, the exploring what the gene or what the project can do. So when it comes to getting a recessive project, my advice is if you are brand new, don't have any animals for it at all, the way that we kind of go about it is that we get one male, one visual male most of the time, and then we get a het female or a visual female, it just depends on exactly how expensive it is. And then we get 2 to 3 other animals that are things that have genes that we want to work into the project. Maybe they've already been made, but that there's none available. An example on this that I could say is like yellow belly. So yellow belly in sunset is one of the best examples of it, but they're really, really hard to come by. In fact, I would be very surprised if you go into Morph Market right now and are able to find a yellow belly het sunset or a yellow belly sunset animal because they go so fast. So in this situation, if you know that you want to work yellow belly into the sunset project, it's very likely that you will need to make your own hets. So if you are building it out, maybe we have a visual sunset male and a freeway female, or a just yellow belly female, or something like that with various different genes in there. Now, the reason why I think that this is important is that you have to know where you want to go with it. You don't want to just make snakes just to make snakes, because anybody can do that. Instead, you want to have a vision, and oftentimes with recessive project, this vision takes 3 to 5 years plus to actually accomplish. So you want to make sure that you are excited enough about the project that you're going to maintain that momentum, and it's not just like a passing fad where you're like, oh, I saw one combo and I want to recreate that one combo and that's it. In my opinion, when you are planning on starting a project, you want to be so enamored by whatever the base gene is for that project that you just want to see how it looks like in as many different combinations as you can. Anyways, so going back to the actual point of the video, we want to have one male and we're going to say 4 females. So you need to have spots for 5 different females to begin with. Or 5 different snakes, not 5 different females, 5 different snakes to begin with. And these are just the animals that you buy that are building up your foundation. Now, let's take it a step further. So very first season that you have those animals breeding, you have 4 females in this. Let's say all of them go, because you want to plan on the high side in order to make sure that you have enough room in case there is like really, really big clutches or something goes on that you weren't expecting and now you are short spaces. So you get 4 females, they all go. In this case, let's say that you get 8 eggs each. That means that once they hatch, you are going to need to have room for 32 hatchlings. So just from those 5 initial snakes, now you have 32 hatchlings once you have your first breeding season with them. So you need to have room for 37 different snakes. And this doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to keep all 32 hatchlings, but you do need to be able to take care of 32 hatchlings and your 5 original snakes in order to work the project. So just simply from this, realistically, in order to have 1 season worth, and you might sell stuff and like whittle down the animals that you have to care for, you need to have about an ARS 5540 in order to work 1 single recessive project if you are really, really getting it. Now, you are probably going to end up selling a large portion of those animals, and if you're working a project that's popular, people are going to probably really, really want them, especially if you're making heads that have never been made before. Because if you're making snakes that have never been made before, other people want them too because they want to explore, and maybe they didn't have the resources to make those heads, or that they didn't want to spend the time and effort making the heads themselves. So often if you're working with new recessive projects and you are making like leading edge heads, they are going to be able to sell well as long as people trust that the heads that you made are actually heads. That's the big thing when it comes to recessive projects, is that you have to build up the trust with the people who may potentially want to buy them. So let's say from those 4 females that you hold back maybe like the best 2 on average. Maybe you hold back a little bit more in one clutch, maybe you only hold back 1 in another, but on average you hold back the best 2 animals from every single clutch, and this might be males or females, it doesn't necessarily matter. It just kind of depends on what your plans are. So the animals that you end up holding back in that first generation are 8, because you had 4 different clutches, you hold back 2 on average from each clutch, and you still have your 1, like your breeder snakes. So from your 8 holdbacks and your 5 initial ones, you have 13 snakes that you will have to permanently care for, and you need to make sure you have room for. So again, if you started from a 5540, you'll have plenty of space here. Now, once you get ready for the second generation of animals, of those, let's say you had your 5 initial snakes and you have your 8 heads that you've made, or maybe some visuals, it doesn't necessarily matter. Let's say in this situation you have 13 total females that might go. Let's say you have 10 of them go that are related to the project. Now, if we're going off of the same math, that means that for 10 females that are going on an average of 8 eggs each, and that doesn't mean that you're going to get 8 eggs for every single female, but we want to plan on the high end, you are going to have room for 80 hatchlings in addition to the 13 animals that you already had and you were raising up. So second generation in, you need to be able to care for and have room for a maximum of 93 animals. So in this situation, 1 ARS 5540 isn't going to be enough for you to hold all of these animals. But if you had an ARS 5540 and you had an ARS 1065, this would give you 105 different spots. So if you are working a single recessive project, just one gene in it, essentially 1 ARS 5540 and 1 ARS 1065, both of these together should be able to hold all of the animals that you need. But again, you're not necessarily keeping all of them. So you have 10 clutches in this time. Let's again use the same kind of situation where on average you keep 2 snakes per clutch. So that means that now you have 20 holdbacks from that second generation of animals. So in this situation, you had went from 13 permanent animals that are always going to be there because they're your breeders. Now you've added 20 more holdbacks. So in this situation now, in the second generation, you have 33 animals, which again can still fit into 1 ARS 5540 rack. Now, you might have some really big females on this time, and you might want to upgrade to an ARS 7030, and it kind of mixes and matches. Realistically, this isn't 2 years into it, because you're taking that first generation and growing all of them up. So realistically, over the course of 3 to 5 years is what you're looking at for this whole setup. where you would end up needing an entire ARS 5540 and an entire ARS 1065 in order to hold all of the animals for one project. So that's not necessarily that bad when you think of it in terms of one project that you're working at. The thing that I think that often happens is that people want to work multiple projects. We are the same way. We have so many different projects that we want to work, but I think that what ends up happening is once you start having those holdbacks, you realize that you realistically cannot work all of the projects that you're interested in, and that you have to pick and choose. So right now we have one ARS 5540, we have one ARS 7030, we have seven levels of a 1065, and then we have a black box hatchling rack that uses Freedom Breeder tubs, and both of those together end up equaling, I think it's 67 tubs, 67 spots for hatchlings. So it's the equivalent of an ARS 1065. So all of this together, we can pretty easily work one project. We can also probably pretty easily work two projects because we are not super far into either project, any of the projects that we're doing, that we have tons and tons and tons of holdbacks. I would say that the most, given our current setup, that we can realistically work is 3 projects, and in that case we are being a little bit more picky on what animals we are actually holding back. But we do have room to grow. Like within the shop, we have room where we can move out the card table that I was cleaning off at the very beginning of the video, and we are planning on putting in more of those black box racks because they're awesome. We really, really like them. They're PVC, but I think that people kind of think that the metal racks like ARS are inherently better. I don't think so. I love these black box racks, and we're not like sponsored by them or anything like that. This is just my genuine opinion. One, they are cheaper than the ARS racks. I love our ARS racks too. They're cheaper, and the fact that they're PVC, you can switch out to the tub sizes. So you can use the really small hatchling Freedom Breeder tubs. I think they're FB5s. We use the FB8s because we like our hatchlings having a little bit more room. And if we really, really needed like maybe more grow out space or just a rack for males, we can do, I don't remember what it is, the next size up in the Freedom Breeder tubs. And the rack that they have fits all of those tubs perfectly, so you can mix and match what you need. So our plan is that we're going to replace the card table that we are cleaning off with maybe 2 or 3 more of those racks, and then that's going to serve as our table, so that way we can maximize space. And realistically, with those, and once we fill out the rest of the 1065, so that way we can get all of the other levels for it, and we'll probably bring in one more 7030 at some point. That's about the maximum amount of space that we can do here, and as we have been thinking about it, realistically, that gives us room for 3 different recessive projects. And that doesn't mean that we won't have other pairings, but things that we are actively trying to hold back and progress, it gives us 3 different projects within this whole 12 by 20 foot shed that we have like built out. So when you are thinking of how much space do you need for a recessive project, if you're really wanting to work it, not just do 1 or 2 pairings a year where you make some visuals, which is perfectly fine, but if you're trying to be the leading edge of a recessive project, my opinion is that you realistically need to dedicate 1 ARS 5540, and it doesn't have to be wholly dedicated to that project at first, but at some point it's going to be 1 whole ARS 5540 for that project, and probably an entire ARS 1065 in order to care for the hatchlings that you produce for that project every single year. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I know that it's not like super in-depth on marketing, which is things that I really like talking about, but we are going to be making those videos, and we are really close to releasing our very first From Clutch to Shed video, and we are so freaking excited. It's going to be on our female Hydra, who is a granite hidden gene Woma, paired to our banana leopard male Daro, and we are stoked for it. It's going to be awesome. I cannot wait. So if you're not already subscribed to the channel, definitely do it. We're going to be probably dropping that video next week, as long as we are able to get footage of all the hatchlings. So they've all shed out, so we're ready to go. We just got to finish getting the last little bit of the video. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please like, comment, subscribe, and we will see you next week.